What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Week 11 market review in the NFL. If you're just finding this page and it's first time watching, my name is Jeff. This is Lock in Cash Sports. We're about to go through every game on the NFL slate for Week 11. I will give you guys my early takes, some leans, some opinions on situational spots, and I think we actually have some pretty strong ones this weekend, so it should be a lot of fun. Week 10, for me, we had one 2-unit play in the NFL. We'll just do a quick recap. So we had a 2-unit play. It was the Bengals +6, so that was a winner. We had some props. Oh, the props I think didn't do well overall, like 2 and 3 or 1 and 3, something like that. But we hit the 2-unit play on Sunday. We had 4 separate plays that were 1.5 units each. We went 3 and 1 on those, but they were really they were really sweaty. So overall, a winning week. But man, were they sweaty! Just to give you a quick idea of how I was doing on Sunday. Basically, at that 3 p.m. Eastern, like witching hour, 3:30 to 4, we had the Steelers +3. You saw how that game ended. We had the Saints +3.5, and then we had a teaser. Get this teaser. I had a teaser with the Chiefs and with the 49ers, and both of those games came down to a game-winning field goal. One was made, one was blocked. Just an insane ending. So anyway, we end up going 3 and 1. So and then on Monday we just had some props. So week 11 looks like we have some more great situational spots that we can exploit, some good matchups before we get into it all. Remember, free plays get tracked on the Action Network app for me. The link's down in the description if you want to follow me on it. We're now up to 2,500 followers on there, so we're building it strong. The free plays get tracked on there. It's not obviously not all my plays, but it's all the free plays. I do have some up right now for college football and for NFL this weekend. So if you guys want to grab those with me, check that out. There's also deals to finish off the rest of the season with us. We're now in the green for the NFL seasons. If you want to get all my official releases, check down in the description for a 60% off link for the rest of the season. I've released 2 bets for the NFL this weekend so far, and I've released 3 college football bets. So if you're interested, down in the description for those. All right, now let's get it going with Thursday Night Football. This is a great Thursday Night Football game with the Washington Commanders taking on the Philadelphia Eagles. Right now, it looks like Washington is 3.5 across the board. There were 3s here. They did not last very long. Juice 3s that were around -115, -120. But right now, you can get 3.5 to the Commanders at -115-ish in that area. Totals at 48.5. And so I mentioned earlier that we had the Steelers on Sunday. So I've been looking for spots to try to bet against Washington because I've felt for a while now that they aren't as good as their record, or they aren't as good as the team that we've kind of seen all season long. But they played well in that game. I can't really knock them for losing it. The way that they lost it was kind of painful with that basically bomb of a touchdown pass that Russ threw with a few minutes left. Then they jump on the 4th down and kind of sealed the deal. But you know what? They were given a short field by the Steelers on that 4th down fake punt attempt. That gave them a short field. They ended up converting that into a touchdown. So maybe a little bit of their luck is starting to turn. And I just kind of feel like when they step up in competition, I'm unsure how they're going to do. And I think I get the same feeling from this game. Philly's playing really well, but we know that they can score. Philly's been a good offense for years now, but that defense looks now much improved, right? There was some kind of talk earlier in the year about how Vic Fangio defenses take a little bit to get comfortable, to hit their peak. And it might be that we're kind of seeing that now. I try not to put too much stock into games like last week's game where they blow out the Cowboys, because Cowboys have nobody left on that team. So they're basically a bottom of the barrel team right now. So I don't want to overreact to that, but I do think that the Eagles are better than the Commanders. And I do think that this line is short. I think this line will hit 4 and potentially higher. So I want to look to bet the Eagles, but every time, there's something in the back of my head where every time I want the Eagles are in this great spot and you want to look to bet them, that Nick Sirianni bug or something, Jalen Hurts has a bad game, something rears its ugly head. So I'm a little bit hesitant on this one, although I lean pretty strongly to Philadelphia. I think they have a huge advantage on the ground, and I really like how their secondary is playing now too. You're seeing the rookie, especially the draft pick, Kenyon Mitchell, he's starting to play really well. If they're strong in the secondary, they're going to be really dangerous down the stretch, because that has been their one Achilles heel going back to last year. So I like Philly. I think they do win this game. I don't know, something with the Eagles, man, laying those points. I know Jalen Hurts does not have a great record as a favorite. He's been much better as an underdog. So, for whatever that's worth, I lean under on this total. I think the Eagles are going to keep this on the ground. And just as I mentioned that their secondary is better, I think the Commanders are going to have to establish some kind of rushing game. We've seen the Commanders, especially with Brian Robinson Jr. being hurt lately. He's missed 2 games in a row now. they've had to rely a bit more on the pass, and that hasn't been what's best for them. They were really much more lethal when Robinson was running the ball really well, combining that with Jaden Daniels running the ball really well. That was keeping teams on their heels. I think they need to get back to that. So I think both teams could lean into the rushing game, and this total may go under. That may be my stronger play. I may end up betting this under. It's above a key number at 48, but I do lean to Philly in this game. All right, heading over to Sunday, we got the Vikings taking on the Tennessee Titans. Minnesota laying 6, and the total's 39.5. So on the surface, you might look at the Vikings win over the Jaguars on Sunday and think it was unimpressive, but they did pretty much outplay them in that game. The defense was phenomenal once again, but Sam Darnold had a really bad game. Now, that matchup for him was pretty much as easy as it gets. I mean, the Jaguars are one of the worst passing defenses in the NFL, but he couldn't take advantage of it. So even though I know some advanced metrics, or you look at the stats and you might say, well, they actually outplay them by more, but all the interceptions, so the final score is misleading. Yeah, but I'm not sure you're going to get that Darnold you saw earlier in the season again. This is where I'm going with this. I actually make this line only 5. I see a little bit of value on the Titans. And part of the reason that I only make it 5 is because I'm just not that high on Minnesota as everyone else is. I know they have a good defense. I know they have a good rushing defense, but that whole thing that for the first 5 weeks of the season where it was the Brian Flores, the boogeyman defense, that whole thing is gone. It's worn off. Those things don't last in the NFL. And you're starting to see that a little bit. Now, it's still really hard to run the ball against them. But I think what you're seeing lately from Darnold is not a fluke. Sam Darnold has been at best, average quarterback in this league for a while now, for several years. I'm a Jets fan. I've watched a lot of Sam Darnold, and I know they're different teams and different. He's much better coach now, much better skill position talent, all that stuff. But, I didn't believe what I was seeing earlier in the season, and I think it's finally coming to fruition. So I'm not too sold on the Vikings bounce back here. They barely covered they didn't cover the final number on that game last week. It was 7. They covered the early numbers of like 4 and 4.5. But I lean Tennessee here +6. Now the problem here is that I'm a little bit soured on Tennessee. I've bet them twice this year, and they crushed me both times in a brutal fashion. So I'm not running to bet this game, but if I had to bet it, I'd lean to the Titans getting a full touchdown, 6 points at home. That's where I'd go with this. All right, the Packers are taking on the Bears. Green Bay's laying 6 on the road, 6.5 in some spots. Totals at 41.5. Weather's going to be an impact. It looks like it's going to impact this game. Maybe lots of wind. We'll see. Maybe some rain in Chicago. Definitely lean under, but I think that this game could be a blowout. Now, I understand what people are going to say. It's bad weather. It's a desperate home dog at home, getting pretty much at their at their rock bottom price as a home dog, getting 6. But Green Bay's coming out of the bye week. If there's a team right now that would want to beat on Chicago, like beat a horse while it's dead, right? Or whatever the saying is, like if there's one team in the NFL that looks at the Bears and says, wow, look at how they're struggling, and they would just want to pile it on, it's the Packers. They're the one team that would want to go in there and beat them by 30 points. And I don't see any reason why they can't do it. They're coming out of their bye week. They're going to be really healthy for the first time this season, basically. Should have everyone on offense ready to go. Jordan Love rested and now healed up and ready to go. Man, that Bears offense looks horrific. Now you're hearing they might change the play caller. You're even hearing benching Caleb Williams. I don't think that's happening. But this team, I believe, I think I'm pretty good at identifying when a team could be close to quitting, or when they, maybe they rally around the coach like we did last week with the Saints. But I think this team is lost. I think he's lost the locker room. And I think, why would you? If you're the Bears players and you hear some of the quotes coming out from the Bears players when getting asked directly, do you think the locker room's been lost? And they won't confirm nor deny that. I mean, listen, I'm not running to back the Bears. I think this could be a blowout. And just to finish my thought earlier, if you are a Bears player, and let's say Eberflus has lost the locker room, and let's say you just don't like him, you don't want to play for him, why would you go out there and play hard? Why would you give him another week as head coach of this team? I got a feeling this is a blowout and Eberflus gets fired after this game. Better now than later. Why would you waste any more time with this? They've looked awful for 19-3 last week. 3 points against the Patriots. I lean to Green Bay -6 in this game. And I lean to the under because I just don't see. I think this could be like a 27-6. a 31, 31-7. That's kind of what I feel in this game. So give me Green Bay in that one. All right, the Ravens are taking on the Steelers in a huge AFC North divisional battle. Battle of the 1 and the 2. Pittsburgh leading the division right now. They're getting 3.5 at home as a home dog. The threes have been taken out here. It was Baltimore -3. I was interested in that early on. Why did I not send it out? Well, I have some concerns about the Ravens defense, some legitimate concerns. And man, I really listen, I was high on Russ last year. We bet the Broncos a lot when they were dogs with Russell Wilson last year. And I thought, it was a no-brainer to put him in for Fields, but I didn't think he was going to be this good. He's playing really well. That team just looks like all they needed was some veteran leadership at the quarterback position. And it just fits like a glove. It's such a perfect fit. 48.5 is a crazy total to be listed as in a Steelers game. That's so weird to see that a total that high. But yeah, they've got a great offense now, pretty much. And the Ravens have a bad passing defense. They get no pressure. Not no pressure, but they struggle to get pressure unless they're going to blitz you. So I could see, I could see, right? Now that this is 3.5, I could see an argument for both sides. I just got a feeling that the Ravens offense is so good, man. And I just got a feeling this could be finally the matchup that where the Steelers defense, gets taken advantage of a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised if the Ravens win this by a touchdown. So my initial lean was to the Ravens at 3. I still slightly lean them at 3.5, but this is a game where I could see you making a case for both sides. Pretty much every time they've played over the last few years, it's been a 3-point game, and I believe Lamar has never covered against the Steelers. So, whatever that's, take that for what you will. But small lean to this. This is a game that I'm probably not touching, but small lean to Baltimore. All right, the Jaguars are huge underdogs at Detroit, getting 13 points. The total's at 47. Another game that I probably won't touch. Jacksonville played well at home last week against Minnesota. But really they were, it was because of the interceptions, right? It was the turnovers that really killed the Vikings. Otherwise, they probably win that game by double digits. I think this is probably another Lions blowout. This is not the time to, I mentioned to you guys that last week would be the time to fade Detroit. Houston ends up covering. They really should have won. They go scoreless in the second half, and they end up covering the 3.5, but they lose the game. This is not one of those games where you step in front of Detroit. That time will come where the Lions get a loss, a straight-up loss. This ain't it. So I would lean to the Lions laying 13, but it's just such a big number that it's just why? If they end up winning this game by 10, if they're up 17 and the Jaguars get a backdoor touchdown with 30 seconds left, you'll be kicking yourself. Say, why am I taking a 13-point favorite in the NFL, right? So there's just no upside for me to take either side of this game, but I lean to Detroit. I don't even want to talk about this game. The Colts are taking on the Jets. Indianapolis is 3.5-point dog. And actually, now you've got DraftKings has posted a 4 at -112. Totals at 44. I'd lean under in this game because I think that the Jets' offense is just really bad, and I think the Colts are going to be able to run the ball all over them. So running the ball means the clock keeps moving. I think that this is a big game for Jonathan Taylor in this one. I think the Jets are also going to need to run the ball because they just have they just don't have a reliable downfield passing attack right now, even against the zone looks that the Colts are going to throw at you. I just don't see how you can trust Rodgers. And the Colts defensive front has sneakily been a little bit better lately. Quietly, they've been better as they've gotten healthier on defense. I like the under. I don't know how you lay 4 or 3, and I don't know how you lay 3.5 with the Jets. The Houston game was the Jets were a very sharp side in that game. I could see the case for it a lot more there, even though I personally didn't take it and wouldn't bet it. But I could see the case because Houston was coming off of a divisional game. It was a short week. They were really banged up. They had nobody basically on offense besides Joe Mixon. The Jets really, really badly needed a win after an ugly loss. So I get all that. I don't see how you make the case in this game. I think the Colts need this game way more than the Jets do. The Jets season is basically over. I'm not buying this whole thing that the Jets are on life support. No, it's over. It's done. You're not winning. Rodgers looks washed. That there's only a matter of this. And by the way, you're severely outcoached. You've got a guy as head coach that he's not a head coach. Ulbrich is not a head coach. So Steichen on the other side should have a good game plan. I think the Colts could just win this game outright, but I lean them 3.5. I'm just not. I don't know who's taking the Jets in this game because it ain't me. The Rams are taking on the Patriots. LA -4.5 on the road. Also see a couple of fives out there. The total's at 44.5. The Rams looked really bad last night on Monday Night Football, especially offensively. Couldn't get anything going against the Dolphins. Should be a little bit of an easier test here against the Patriots, but this is your typical mid-November outdoor New England game. It's probably going to be cold. Weather could be a factor. I lean slightly to the under. I think the Patriots are kind of finding themselves a little bit on defense. They come off of a great defensive game against the Bears, but that is the Bears. The Rams are kind of in a bounce back spot here, and the Patriots just won a game as a 6-point dog outright. So I could see the case for laying the points with LA. But listen, you're not, no profitable sports bettor ever got to where they are by laying points on the road in the NFL. So don't love laying 5 on the road. I would lean slightly to the Pats at home, but I would lean more strongly to that under 44.5 because I think this could be a kind of like what you saw last night on Monday Night Football, like a grind of a game, a little maybe some turnovers here and there, slight lean to the under in that game. Not interested really that strongly either way. The Raiders are taking on the Dolphins. Vegas is getting 7.5 points. Total's at 44. This is an interesting game because Vegas comes out of their bye week. You don't know what changes they've made on their side. They've been struggling. The Dolphins just got a much-needed win. They really, really needed that win after blowing games against the Cardinals, blowing opportunities against the Bills. Now, they get that win against the Rams, come back home. But here's the thing, number's just too high. It's just too high of a number. I have this at 6. I lean to the Raiders plus 7.5. It's probably something that I won't end up actually getting down on, but it's too many points. Really it is for me to lay with Miami, especially with how inconsistent, they had a good game, but they only put up 23 points. They've been a bit inconsistent. What's up with Tua, by the way, diving? If you guys didn't watch the game last night, Tua dives trying to make a head-first tackle. What is wrong with this guy? I mean, he's playing, I don't know what he's doing out there or what point he's trying to prove, but that was also concerning to me too. I'm like, even if the Dolphins are in a great spot, am I going to bet this team where at any second this guy could do something stupid and get concussed again? A lot of people don't understand the science, and I'm not a doctor, but the science behind concussions is that once you get 1 or 2, you're much more prone to get more. You really have to protect yourself. It's not the same. It's almost like a fighter. If you guys know MMA or boxing, like once a fighter gets, let's say there's a guy like in the UFC, he's like 10-0, no one's been able to knock him out. Once he gets knocked out for the first time, he's much more likely to get knocked out again. Your jaw goes quickly. And that's the same thing with these concussions. So that was crazy for me to see. It was just like, whoa, even though he was okay, I was like, what are you doing, Tua? So that concerns me a little bit. Going up against a pretty physical defense that's going to want to play you tough like the Raiders. It's crazy that when you're handicapping a game, you even have to think about something like that. But that's something that's on my mind. I was like, what if Tua gets concussed again? So I'm not running to late points with Miami. And I think 7.5 just in general is too much for a team coming out of their bye week. Lean to the Raiders plus 7.5 in this one. All right, the Browns are on the road against the Saints, getting a point. This is basically a pick or Cleveland plus 1. Is there juiced 1.5s out there maybe? Totals at 44.5. I think this is a great spot for the Browns. This is a game where I wanted to get down on early, but the line movement got the best of me. I was slow to get it when it was at 2.5. But I think Cleveland wins this game. I think, I talked last week about the head coach being fired angle, and we had the Saints plus 3.5 as one of our bets. It cashed, but they needed a lot to happen for that to cash. They needed a lot of good fortune. Koo misses a bunch of field goals. They get that 4th down stop at the end, even after Kamara drops the pass that would have sealed the game. Just, it was one of those spots where you saw how much the players love Rizzy. You saw how hard they played for him, but you also saw how little talent this team actually has. And one thing that I'll say is, I mentioned it last week, the Falcons don't get any pressure on the quarterback. And you give Derek Carr a clean pocket, and he's going to throw some of those bombs like you saw. It's exactly what happened. He threw those bombs, and it gave them great field position, allowed them to get some points on the board. You're going to get pressure. The Browns are going to get pressure. The Saints' offensive line is not very good. You just had a great matchup for them last week. This is not a great matchup for them against the Cleveland defensive front. Coming out of their bye week, Nick Chubb healthier. Great matchup for him. Why can't Nick Chubb run the ball all over that Saints defense? I think Cleveland wins the game. I think it's mispriced. I like them. Plus 1.5 money line if you could get it at even money, I would take that. But I'm looking to play them. I just want to see where this market goes. But I'll likely be on the Browns in some capacity. All right, the Seahawks are getting 6.5 points in San Francisco. This is a big NFC West divisional game. Totals at 50.5 in this one. I kind of initially lean over. This is where I first looked at in this game. I think the over could hit here, but I also lean to the Seahawks, and I understand that the Niners thoroughly outplayed the Buccaneers last week, and still had to sweat at the end to try to get that game. It was 2020. The game was tied. But here, and I know that there's an argument to be made saying that, well, if a team is consistently outplaying the other team but not winning by margin, it eventually is only a matter of time before they win by margin. But I could just flip that back on you and say, well, it's only a matter of time before they stop outgaining teams by 200 yards, right? I mean, it was an unimpressive performance to me from the 49ers. And the Buccaneers are decimated on offense. They were on short rest. They played into overtime in their last game. I'm unimpressed with a 3-point road win. I'm sorry. And Seattle's now healthy, much healthier on defense. They should get DK Metcalf back for this game. They're coming out of their bye week. They're a 6.5-point road divisional dog. You've got tons of trends on 6-point dogs, divisional dogs that are on the road. And this division is still within their sights. So I lean to Seattle getting the 6.5. I think this could be a closer game than people think. And remember, these teams played earlier this season. The Niners won and covered the 3. But that was on a short week. Seattle was riddled with injuries, and the Niners just came off of that horrible loss. Was it to Arizona? I believe it was either the Rams or the Cardinals loss that they came off of, and they really needed the win, so they got it. This spot to me is the opposite. I think this is a Seahawks spot, so I would lean to Seattle getting the 6.5 points. And by the way, I don't see any movement either way on this, but if we were to somehow get to 7, that would be a play for me, for sure. Seattle plus 7. All right, the Falcons are on the road taking on the Denver Broncos. Atlanta's getting 2 or 2.5, depending on where you look. Totals at 4.44. Now, this opened at 1, guys, or 1.5. And my initial look was to the Broncos. I can't play it at 2.5. At 2.5, you're telling me that on a neutral field, the Broncos are better than the Falcons, and I don't buy that. So I think the Falcons make a solid teaser leg in this game, taking them from 2.5 up to 8.5. It's, the Denver defense is I think their secondary is legit. I'm not sure about their defense overall, but I do think that their guys in the back are good. So that's going to make it a little bit difficult for the Falcons to throw the ball, but I think they could run on them. And I think on the other side, I'm just not seeing how, you saw the Broncos looked against the Chiefs. There's trends for teams after they play the Chiefs, rough and tough. Other than the one drive that they had, they really struggled in that game to move the ball. The Falcons don't get a lot of pressure, but they're good against the run. Solid. So they're just solid overall on defense, but their one flaw is they don't get pressure. But I don't really see that being as important in this game because I don't look at Bo Nix as like a true pocket. He's not going to stand in the pocket and like pick you apart. So I don't think it's going to be that much of a problem for them in this. I just think this is a close game. I wouldn't be surprised at all. I mean, would you be surprised if the Broncos lose this game? Sometimes it's just simple as asking yourself that question. I wouldn't be. So I think the 2.5 has gone a little bit too high. It's taken me off of the Denver side, but I would play Atlanta in a teaser if I was looking for a teaser leg to pair something else with. I would go Falcons up to 8.5 in this game. All right. Matchup of the week. You've got the Chiefs taking on the Buffalo Bills. Kansas City is getting 2.5 points on the road, and your total is 45.5. And this one, you probably can anticipate what a lot of people are going to say, but it's really simple. You've got Patrick Mahomes as an underdog, and you've got the trends. He's over 70% against the spread as a dog. He's over 70% against the spread as a road dog. Yeah, listen, simple handicapping 101, right? I've said this before to you guys. If I find a spot where you can make it really simple, let's go handicapping 101. If I'm generous and assign 2 points for the Buffalo home field, I guess you could make the case it's worth 2.5, but I'm going to say 2 points for Buffalo's home field. Because remember, it's not just the home field, it's the opponent, and the Chiefs have gone in there and won before. So let's say I give them 2 points for home field, and now you adjust. So you're telling me that on a neutral field, Buffalo's a half point better than the Chiefs? I disagree. My power ratings have the Chiefs 1 point better than Buffalo on a neutral, which if I then adjusted for home field, I would get Buffalo -1 in this game. There's no way I can get to -2.5. I just can't get there. So I think the line's is incorrect, number one. And I know the Bills, that's where it opened, -1. The Bills took early money. but this is not getting to 3. So the very simple handicap of this game is, if you like the Chiefs, bet them now because it's not getting any better than plus 2.5. Or tease them now because you're in the optimal long teaser range for an underdog. You can take them up from 2.5 to 8.5. If you like Buffalo, then just wait because I think this line's going to come down. I think you can get a 2 or a 1.5, maybe even back down to a 1. Remember, the Bills also have injuries on the offensive side. They lost Kincaid, and I don't know if he's going to play in this game. A couple of the wide receivers a little bit banged up. Obviously, the Chiefs have their injuries, but they've got Hopkins now settling in, and that was a really tough matchup against them. I try, again, not to overreact to divisional games or games where teams took advantage of a very weak opponent like the Eagles did to the Cowboys, and also try not to overreact to divisional games. Like if people say, 16-14, they blocked the field goal at the end. It's a divisional game, man. Divisional games, they play each other close. The underdogs come ready for those games. So I wasn't surprised that the Broncos were in that game and covered the spread. I would have been surprised if they won, but I wasn't surprised that they were in that game and covered. So try not to overreact too much to that. Also was your classic little look ahead spot. Maybe the Chiefs were anticipating, they got to hit the road and go to Buffalo. So there was a lot of factors at play there for why that game was close. I'm not overreacting to it. I just think that the Chiefs are the better team. If you think the Chiefs are the better team just on a neutral field, then this line makes no sense. So lean to KC plus 2.5, but I really want to play them in a teaser. I'm not sure. Maybe tease them with the Falcons. The next game we'll talk about, which is the Bengals, could be a good one. Houston on Monday night is minus 7.5 against the Cowboys. Maybe tease them down to 1.5. You got a couple of good options, but I think KC's the best teaser leg of the week because I just think they win the game. All right, the Bengals are taking on the Chargers. This is your Sunday night football game. Cincinnati's getting 1.5 points. Total's at 47.5. Again, a really simple one. I really like the Bengals in this game. I'm just not seeing it here for the Chargers. Who have the Chargers played this year? I did some, I look at all the games before I record these, but quick note on the Chargers. They're 6-3. Their 6 wins have come against teams that have a combined record of 17-40 this season. So they really haven't beaten anybody. They've played 2 teams that had a winning record at the time, which were the Chiefs and the Steelers, and they lost both of those games. Now, both of those games were basically without Herbert. But even against losing teams, they've just basically beat up on deadbeat opponents. And that's not impressive to me. You're going to get a top 3 offense, a great passing offense in the Bengals. They're going to challenge that secondary. Burrow's going to sling the ball in this game. And here's the thing. If he does and they get ahead, do I trust the Chargers to come back? They're a great front-running team. If you're playing a bad team, because they can just lean on that rushing attack, they don't have to pass too much, play careful with the football, the defense is solid. But if you're playing from behind, do I trust them to come back? I don't, personally. I think the Bengals win this game. I think the line's a little bit mispriced. And yeah, I'm not seeing it here for the Chargers. I think this will finally be the game where you watch a Chargers game and you think, man, they don't really have any weapons, right? Like there's only so much that Quentin Johnston can do. J.K. Dobbins is good, but he's injury prone and you're starting to see him wear down a little bit. He's not as effective as he was early on in the season. Even though he's a young back, he just, maybe the injuries in the past, he's had some bad injuries and maybe those can, it's just wear and tear. We're week 11 now. So I think that the rushing game could slow down a little bit. And the Bengals, when I look back at some of the games that they've played and their games where their defense has really been gashed, it's been against those teams that have very mobile quarterbacks. The Ravens twice, the Commanders earlier in the season, they got blown out by the Eagles, right? So you got these teams that run the ball really well, but also have very, very mobile quarterbacks that give them a lot of problems. How many times did you see on that Thursday night football game last week against the Ravens where Lamar would step back and it looked like everyone's covered. He's got nowhere to go, but he extends the play for so long that somebody gets open. Or what about that play where he ran back 10 yards and then ran forward 20 yards and got a game? Like, they struggle with the mobile guys. Herbert's not doing that. He's a pocket passer. If they get home, they'll give them trouble. I think the secondary will play well in this game because the skill position players on the other side are not really that good. I love this matchup for the Bengals. So give me Cincy plus 1.5. All right, Monday night is your final game. The Texans are taking on the Cowboys. Houston's laying 7.5 in this one, and the total's at 42. I think you got the story on the Cowboys last week, guys. With Cooper Rush in, the offense couldn't do anything. You're now getting a brutal matchup against a Houston team that has lost 2 games in a row. Still in the lead in the AFC South, but this is supposed to be a Super Bowl contender. They can't drop 3 games in a row. I can't see any way Dallas wins this game. I just can't see it. Now, I can see them covering, of course. It's a 7.5-point spread at home. It's a big spread. But I think you're pretty safe taking Houston as a teaser leg, which is what I may do with Kansas City. I lean slightly to the over, actually, in this game at 42. I just think it's too low. It's below a couple of key numbers. So I would lean slightly over. I think the Houston might have their offensive outburst in this one. They only put up 20 points, or sorry, 23 points against the Lions. Before that, they struggled against the Jets. Didn't even get to, what was that? I think they scored 13 points or something. But I think this could finally be the game against a weakened, defeated Cowboys defense where they go off. So I could see the overhitting. I think Houston wins. They probably cover the 7.5, to be honest. It probably looks similar to the Eagles game that you saw last week. I think Mixon has a big game. Anytime a team can run it, if you have a good running back on the other side and they're taking on the Cowboys, it's usually an advantageous matchup. So I would lean to Houston, but I think the better play here is taking them as a teaser. Combine them with something like the Chiefs, the Bengals. You got good dog teaser legs this week, right? You got the Falcons, Chiefs, Bengals, the Browns, even 1.5 up to 7.5. So there's a bunch of good options out there. I would tease Houston as the best way to play this one. All right, that's week 11, guys. Later this week, what you can expect from the channel is the same as last week. I'll have a referee video up. There's some good, there were some good referee videos, referee trends last week. The assignments come out on Wednesday, so I can't make that video earlier in the week. So once they come out, I'll dig into the data and we'll come back with a referee video. And I'll also try to put up some shorts as well, so you guys can have some more content to watch out for. All right, free plays for the weekend. Check the description down below to get the Action app. That's where I'm putting all of them up. And good luck in week 11, guys. Hopefully all your bets cash. I'm looking for a big week because of some of these spots I think I'm going to end up going big on. So let's see if we can make it a big weekend. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys next week for week 12. Let's get it.